I brought it up to you. I was like, hey, how would you feel about moving in with my parents, but not moving in with my parents, still having like our own space
Right.
and being able to save money. That was the main
Yep.
reason why we
Yep.
did it.
Yep.
Save money.
Exactly that.
We still paid rent, but obviously we weren't paying
Market
what
rate.
market rate what you would
Yeah.
pay for an apartment of that size.
Hello, I'm Tijani Musa.
And I'm Yazmin Musa, and this is how we're doing it.
Welcome to How We're Doing It. Here we share stories about our journey and experiences of being first generation college graduates, our family, buying our first home, moving across the country, and living a debt-free lifestyle. We do so in an authentic, fun, and educational way to help other first generation immigrants with similar paths. That being said, Yasmin, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about living with your in-laws peacefully.
Okay, I like that. I like that. I feel like that's directed to me. So I'm the one who's going to talk and you are going to be listening. But here's how you can help me with this.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to do me a favor. Can you do that for me?
Yeah.
All right. So the favor is, could you set the context of this topic? Like, what's the context? From living in Falls Church together to living with my in-laws. Can you set the context for us, and then I'll take it from there?
Okay, so we lived in Falls Church. We had our own little apartment, small, not the cutest, just being real.
Okay.
And we wanted to move. At the time, I was working in Prince William County, so we were like, let's move to Prince William County. And it just so happened that my parents at the time, their tenants were getting ready to leave too, and they had in their home like a basement apartment situation where you have your own kitchen, your own bathroom, bed. It was 2 bedrooms actually, laundry, all that stuff. And I brought it up to you. I was like, hey, how would you feel about moving in with my parents, but not moving in with my parents, still having like our own space
Right.
and being able to save money. That was the main
Yep.
reason why we
Yep.
did it.
Yep.
Save money.
Exactly that.
We still paid rent, but obviously we weren't paying
Market rate.
what you would pay
Yeah.
for an apartment of that size,
Right.
or even another basement of that size.
Right. It was self-contained.
It was.
Yeah. It has its
Yeah.
own bathroom and a little kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we discussed pros and cons. Obviously, for me, I was living back with my parents. I had no issue.
Yeah.
Love, spending time with my mom, my dad.
Yeah.
And then for you, we kind of discussed what are some of the things, the challenges that might present in our situation.
Right. Absolutely. And so from there, because for you, it was like a homecoming. You grew up in that house. And so coming back, it's like you're basically coming back to your parents. And for me, is living with my in-laws and something that I've never done before. And the way I approached it, I do so the way I approach many things in my life. I talk to people that I respect. Some people call them mentors. So I talked to my mentors and I talked to a trusted friend. I said, hey, man, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Going back with my in-laws, and the goal is to, what Yasmin said, to save money. And uh, the idea is that I was gonna go back to school to pursue my master's, and we wanted to be in a position where when we cash flow the degree without going into debt, and so we wanted to save money while we do that also, because we have longer goals. And so we decided to go back and live with Yasmin's parents. So for me, that's my first time doing it, and asking my mentors and asking friends how they feel about it. I did not get like encouraging advice or anything like that. It's more so like one of my friends said that he did it. He lived with his in-laws, with his wife and 2 kids at the time, and it was not the prettiest thing. It was uh, not that they had any conflicts, but it's that the in-laws sometimes overstep in a lot of things, like especially when it comes with the kids. They're always down to, they're always in their space, those type of things. And so I listened and took notes from what he was telling me, and then I talked to my mentor about it, and basically most of them say that um, it usually doesn't turn out good living with your in-laws. And so what that brought to my attention is that I remember when I was graduating from high school and going into college, uh, my friends and I decided that we wanted to live together. And people were saying that it was not a good idea to room with your friends in college. And but we knew what we wanted to do, and we knew how we were gonna make it work. And so we had no issues living together with our friends. But from what people have heard or their experiences, they painted it in a way that it could be a negative things, and you might end up losing your friends. And so I know I got all these feedbacks from people talking about in-laws, and then I look up information online. It also didn't paint a good picture. But what I did was I basically took all that information, compiled them, and make an informed decision. So now on this podcast topic, I'm gonna share some of these tips on how to live with your in-laws peacefully, and hopefully you can gain something from it. And basically what I've learned living with them. And towards the end, I'll share a story how mm, the basically the table turned, where, but I'll wait there. I'll share that at the end. But what are some of the tips that some of the things that I learned living with my in-laws? Number one, it is always a good and smart idea to set boundaries with your in-laws. That's rule number one. Living with my in-laws, especially my father-in-law. My mother-in-law is very peaceful and kind, and she just go about her thing. She go about doing her things, and she does not. I never had any issues with her. So when I say set boundaries, you have to set clear boundaries and expectations. So going into living with my in-laws, I knew that that was not my space. The entire house is not my house. It's my in-laws' house. And so I set boundaries. First, I understood exactly how my father-in-law navigates his day-to-day. All right? We set boundaries. We're going to be downstairs. All right? They have the middle floor and then all the way upstairs. So we understood that. When we go to grocery shopping, we use the back door, the gate, or the fencing to bring in our groceries. When we have friends over, we use the gate or the fence for them to come into our space. And those are all expectations and setting clear boundaries, understanding what your space is, and then also understanding what their space is and respecting that space. I understood from day one what my in-law, especially my father-in-law, what he likes and doesn't like. And what do? I do exactly what he likes and do exactly how I know exactly how to move around him. My father-in-law likes to call himself the big dog. And so it's his house. I treat him as the big dog of the house. My father-in-law at the time also was working away from home. But whenever he's home, he is the big dog. When he's not home, he will let me know, Tijani, I'm going away. Take care of the house. Make sure everything is going all right. And I'll execute my responsibilities when he's not away. But when he comes back home, it's his house. He takes it from where I leave off. So that's setting clear expectations and boundaries with your in-laws. Respect your space, respect their space. And then having it in the back of your head that it's their house. That's rule number one. Rule number two is communicate. Because for us, Yazmin is my wife. All right. Yasmin's parents. Yasmin's always checks me, ensuring that we don't take advantage of her parents. And that includes paying our rent on time. Just because they're my in-laws doesn't mean that I'm going to abuse, because first of all, they are doing me a favor. They didn't have to save me money. They're not the one that told me to get married broke. Okay? They did not advise me to go get married broke. I did it on my own. So it's not their responsibility to save me money. So whatever they were doing for me, they were doing it because they love me and they're doing me a favor. So I understood that. And so Yazmin also checks me to ensure that we are dealing with her parents in a communicative way, in an open way, and in a fair way. And that starts with paying our rent on time. All the time. We were never late. Right. We pay early. So we did all of that. So communicate effectively and openly. And we did that. I did that. Yazmin did that. And they also, from them to us, they did that. They communicated openly. Showing respect and consideration is another thing. Like I was saying earlier, my father-in-law likes to think that he's the big dog. And so I respect him as such. And me and him, we communicate clearly. And I know things that basically pushes his button. I avoid those things. Sometimes I slip up, okay? Because all right, sometimes I slip up because I'll make a joke and he doesn't find it funny, and I'll get in trouble. And whenever I get in trouble, it's called what, babe? When I get in trouble,
Regañado.
Regañado. You know how many times I get regañado? Every day, morning. it's like a meal. 3-course meal, okay?
Oh, stop it. It was not every day.
Oh, tell me the day that I was not regañado, that I don't hear regañado. I get regañado in the morning. When I wake.
Regañado means scolded.
Yeah.
And you were not scolded daily. Some days
Almost daily.
You didn't even see him some days.
Okay. The days I don't see him, I don't get regañado. But when I see him, the first thing that comes out of my mouth would get me in trouble.
I think it's because you guys have very different personalities. Like he's very serious. Yeah. He likes to joke to a certain extent, but he doesn't understand like sarcastic jokes, and I don't think he likes them. And you love to just laugh and make jokes, and you are, the day you're talking about when you were scolded at 6 a.m, it was because you were trying to make a joke. The man just woke up. He's trying to go to work, and you're making jokes. He was mad at you.
And the other thing that I do to piss Luis off, even my listeners are gonna be like, I thought you said you didn't know anything. Luis will come from work, right? He will be so tired and exhausted. Yazmin and I like to go on a walk. And then I'll ask him, hey, Luis, you want to go on a walk with us?
He'd get so mad.
Tijani, I work from home. So Luis will be like, Tijani, I just came from work. I spent 8 hours standing on my feet. And I just got home, and you're asking me to go on a walk, and you sit down there all day. I don't know what you do, but you sit down here all day, and you're telling me to go on a walk. I'm just trying to look out for my father-in-law, okay? All right? Me, Yazmin, and Yazmin's mom, my mother-in-law, we like going on walks. And so I'm an inclusive guy. I don't want to leave him behind. But that stuff always gets me in trouble because I do it at the wrong time. So that's another tip. Do things at the right time, at the right setting. All right?
I think you just have to know their personality.
Understand their personality.
And know what makes them upset, what triggers them.
Right. All right. Participate in household responsibilities is another one. What does that mean? I've mentioned already we pay our rent. The other things that I did living with my in-law is helping him with household chores. And I like to do landscaping, cutting the grass, all those type of things, especially when he's not home. Even sometimes when he's home, sometimes he does side jobs on the weekend. And I don't have side jobs on the weekend when we decided, I was working on the weekend, but I do have a little bit of availability or time. So I'd use that time to cut the grass and make sure that the yard looks good, because we are the closest to the yard, because we lived in the basement. And so when you come outside of our space, you're literally on the yard. So I made sure that I participate and help him cutting the grass, making sure that sometimes I even go and buy gasoline for the machines, all those things. So, helping with household responsibilities on things that he needs help with is another thing that I also did to make peace between me and my in-law. Another thing, another tip is finding common grounds. You're living with people, all right? At the end of the day, they're human beings and we're human beings too. And so there is the likelihood of having like disagreements is there. When disagreements arise, I don't remember any serious disagreement that we had to like get intermediaries or like sit there and talk about. I don't remember any of that, because I knew how my father-in-law moves, and so I just move a different lane without interfering on his lane. And it's the same thing for my mother-in-law. I kind of know what she likes and doesn't like, and I do what she likes. And so me and her had no issues. Matter of fact, I'm her favorite. She loves me, and I love her. So that's that's the relationship that I have with her. All right. Maintaining your independence is another tip. How do you maintain your independence from your in-laws? It goes back to the tip number 1, setting clear boundaries. All right. We live in the basement, and my wife always reminds me our space is the basement. So even going upstairs, we take off our shoes to go upstairs, because my mother-in-law loves to clean. She cleans. We have a running joke we call limpia trapo. She always has a trapo and cleans the house every single time.
A rag. A trapo es a rag.
Trapo is a rag, okay? She always has a rag, wiping up the tiniest things, dust, water, anything that drips, juice, anything. She cleans it up. And her vacuum is always running. And so when we go up to her space, we respect her space, take off our shoes, all those type of things, and make sure that we do exactly what she likes and avoid what she doesn't like. And so that's another thing we did. Maintaining our independence. We stay downstairs. When they have their friends, unless they invite us, we don't go up there. And they did the same thing. Unless we ask them to come down, they don't come down. And so we have mutual respect and mutual understanding. All right. So that is another thing you do when you live with your in-laws. And some of these tips are transferable. You can apply them when you live with anybody, including living with your spouse. I have respect for my spouse. Sometimes I respect her. I respect her space all the time, and she respects mine. And so we'll live peacefully together. So those are tips that you can use in different relationships and different avenues. All right. Another tip, practice patience and flexibility. Just be patient. Be patient. Things will happen the way they are supposed to happen. You don't need to rush things. All right. This goes back to us. Our goal was to save money. And throughout that process and that journey, we had to be patient, understanding the bigger picture. And also living with my in-laws required us to be patient and understand that it's their space, and it's a pit stop for us. That was not the destination. That was just a stop, a rest area for a few months. In our case, a couple years and a half. All right. It was a rest stop. And then we knew where we were going. And so we were patient in getting there. So be patient with your in-laws, be patient with yourself, and know what your goal is and work towards that. All right. And then my in-laws helped me a lot. All right. Sometimes my wife gets annoyed with me for whatever case it is. But I know that when she sees her mom, it makes her happy. And her mom lives above her. So it helped me in the sense that she could run up and just avoid me, go upstairs and spend time with her mom. And sometimes it helps me in a sense that she and her mom could go to the store and just do shopping. Okay? Shopping. She enjoys that. Her mom enjoys that. And that helps me. When she's not at home, I get to watch my sports, spend time with the kids when Jocelyn was around already. But when Jocelyn wasn't there, I get to do my things, maybe help clean the apartment or clean the yard, those type of things. So living with your in-laws has a lot of benefits. My wife has a great relationship with her mom, and she loves spending time with her. And when she's spending time with her mom, I have no worries. I can spend time with me. Celebrate differences is the last one before I leave it to my wife to ask me questions. And then I had mentioned in the middle of the podcast that I'm going to share with you something that happened between us. All right. But the last tip is celebrate differences. I'm from Africa. My in-laws are from Mexico. Huge cultural differences. All right. Everything about us is different. My father-in-law loves to eat carne. He loves to eat carne, but a special carne is called pork. All right? I don't eat pork. My father-in-law loves his drinks. What's his favorite?
Corona.
Corona. He loves his Corona. All right? I don't drink. But my father-in-law respects me because he knows that I don't drink. He knows I don't eat pork. And he never asked me ever to ever buy him Corona or buy him pork. He respects that. He knows that I don't do those things, and so he respects that. So that's one thing, all right? Having mutual respect. Respect from you to them, from them to you. It's mutual respect. And my father-in-law and I never had any issues. He drinks. I know he drinks. He eats his pork. And I had no issues with that. And they love me so much, I can talk about them for 10 hours. All right? But I'm not going to do that to you. You know, I don't want to do that to you. But my in-laws, they love me so much that they basically created a new menu when I'm around. They stopped eating pork. They make chicken. They stopped eating pork.
They didn't stop eating the dishes they like to eat that are pork. They just substitute the pork for chicken.
For chicken. So they created a new menu when I'm around.
I don't think it's a brand new menu. I think it's they adapted
their
recipes.
But that's love right there.
It is.
They didn't have to do that. They could continue doing what they do, eating pork. Again, they did not force me to come married to the house. I chose to do it. And so them basically adapting a new a menu to adapt to my situation and accommodate my situation is huge respect from them to me and from me to them. And so they love me so much and I love them back. So do you have any questions before I give them this last nugget?
Okay, so I know you mentioned that you had to have like boundaries because from your mentor who was like, I did it with 2 kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your situation was different because when we started living there, we didn't have kids.
Right.
And then by the time we left, we had Yazmin. So how did that play a role?
Yeah, so basically when we started there, it was just me and you. Me and my wife Yazmin were living there. And so when Jocelyn came about, our daughter, it basically, created an added layer, something that I had to be aware of, right? Because before it was just me and you, the noise level is lower and we can control it. But now that we have a baby, Jocelyn could be crying in the middle of the night. And so how do we navigate this newness to ensure that we still respect the space that we're in? And those were challenging days. And that goes back to, setting those expectations and having those open communication because they knew that we were pregnant and they knew that we were about to have a baby. And so they understood that and they were very supportive when the baby was there. On nights that the baby was crying, so I remember one night they even came down to check on us, ensuring that everything was going on. So it's just a matter of having clear and open communication with them and be like, hey, this is where we are in our life. And we are looking to add another member of the family. And that's going to pose some challenges. And we just wanted to ensure that we wanted to ensure that this is what's coming. And because we are new parents, we didn't know how to navigate that. And so part of the benefit of living with them, they helped us a lot. Because I remember every single day, your mom was making you atoles to ensure that you have enough nutrients to take care of the baby. And so I loved it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was an ideal situation. I was with my parents. My mom took care of me. She took care of her baby while I took care of my baby. And it was a beautiful thing.
Yep. This is a win-win situation for me too, because my wife had the needed support that she could get as a new parent, as a new mom. What other better way to be supported if it's not your mom? It's like the village thing we talk about, it takes a village to raise a child. And for us, when we had that baby, that village was my in-laws, and they did everything that they did to help us be in where we are today.
Yeah, I agree. And they love you. I remember one time I was being mean to you. My dad sat me down. He was real serious with me. He was like, you need to be nice to Tijani because he's nice to you and he loves you and takes care of you and you're mean to him.
Oh, you got regañado.
I got regañada. Regañada.
Regañada.
Okay? I got scolded by my dad for being mean to you.
Oh man, see what I'm talking about?
It was like I was like, who's the child here? Because I thought I was your child and he's your son-in-law, not the other way around.
You know what they say? You know what they say though, because when you get married to a family, they're getting either a son or a daughter. So they have a lot of love for me, and I love them back. And so, yeah, I can picture Luis, scolding you, because you could be very, you know what I'm saying?
Whatever. Anyways, what's your story?
All right, so my story is that I told you that I lived with my in-laws, right? And so we moved from Virginia to Texas. And so when we left Virginia and came to Texas, this was a decision we made between me and my wife. And little did we know, my in-laws also decided to sell their home and relocate to Texas with us. And guess what?
They lived with us.
They lived with us. They lived with us. The difference is that our home didn't have a basement. So they took a room upstairs. Our home doesn't have two kitchens. So we use the same kitchen. And most of the time, we were using the same food. We did groceries, the same groceries, we make the same food. And so what I'm trying to say is sometimes what goes around comes back around. It's not that they didn't have the money to rent when they came here. It's just that the way it played out is that when they came to Texas, they wanted to ensure that they find the space or the place where they would like to live. And so they took the time to do their research to find the area where they want to live. And during that time, they stayed with us. And so guess what happened? We treated them the same way they treated us. We had clear boundaries. We set expectations. We communicated openly. We have independence. We respect each other. All of the things that I mentioned were in full display because this is our second rodeo. And we had a peaceful transition until they left us and went and purchased their home here about 4 to 5 minutes from us. And they are still very, very instrumental in our journey because my mother-in-law is the one that watches my daughter who's 2 years old.
Yeah, she helps out with Leo in the afternoons.
Absolutely.
Picking him up from school and getting him settled while I get home.
Yep.
And while you get off work and we, can get dinner situated and all that. So
Yep.
It's great.
I can't. I'm super, super grateful.
I think one point that you didn't bring up throughout your conversation is both of us come from cultures where family is very highly valued.
Yes.
And more than one generation living in one home is a normal thing. It's something that the family does to help each other.
Right.
And so when we brought, the idea to my parents and told them we'd like to move in, my parents said yes immediately.
Right.
And then when the roles reversed, and my parents are moving to Texas, and you know, they're trying to figure out, when they're gonna buy, or if they're gonna buy a home, like where all those things.
Yeah.
It wasn't even really a decision. It was just something that our heart felt like we needed to do.
Right.
Like they're
Right.
moving cross country. We just moved cross country, and we
Right.
would have loved to have the opportunity to figure things out,
Right. Right.
and just crash somewhere. That wasn't an option for us. So us, opening our home to them it's what family does. And for some people, they don't have as close relationships with their family.
Yeah.
And for us, I'm grateful that we do. I'm grateful that we value our family so much, and that we have the close relationship that we do.
Yeah. That's a very, very good point. Absolutely. And that being said, then take this episode as culturally contextual, right? It applies to our culture because we value family so much, and then it is common for adults' children to live with their parents, or parents living with their adults' children. That is the common thing that occur in our culture, and so this is it's a cultural context for us, and so sometimes it's applicable to other cultures as well, but it may need extra effort and extra work to do that. And for us, the foundation was already there, where Yazmin has a very solid relationship with her parents, and I have mutual respect with them, and so it was easier for us to execute this. And even when they came to our home, I had mentioned to you they could stay here until they retire.
Yeah, you did.
That was my goal.
Yeah. And we, quickly adapted our home and made sure they felt welcome and they had a space for all of their stuff, as much as we could fit in the house. And, I think it's one of those things where you said it best, right? Like, do you remember December last year when my parents came to visit, and you told them how, they were a big part of us getting to where we were.
Yeah, this fast. Yeah. So yeah, I shared with them that we were able to buy a house in our late 20s to our early 30s and be able to buy our first home. That was only possible because of the sacrifices that they made. And it goes way back to, them coming here from Mexico and making all those sacrifices, and more so allowing us to live with them and saving money. And because of the money that we were able to save, it allowed us to do two things. Number one, pay off my college, my master's degree. We paid it off in cash. And number two, we were able to save enough money to travel to Texas and check out the area that we want to live in, and having enough to pay for a down payment for a home. And then also, I guess three things. First, paying off our college, my master's, and secondly, saving enough money for a down payment, and thirdly, traveling across the country from Virginia all the way here to Texas without having to use a credit card. We cash flow all of that, and it's because of the sacrifice and understanding that they showed to us and allowing us to stay with them, we were able to save that money. So I let them know that, because I had to give them their flowers and let them know that it's because of them we were able to achieve this fast. Otherwise, we would be talking 5 years, 6 years down the road.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So anything else before I wrap this up?
No, I'm just happy. I chose wisely. Go back to the episode on choosing your partner wisely, if you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But I'm happy I chose you, and that you have the love and the respect for my parents that you do, and the value of family that I share as well, because I think we're on the same page when it comes to that, and
Absolutely.
we're not afraid to ask for help from our family. We're not afraid to accept the help. And
Absolutely.
we're also not afraid to extend the help when it's needed.
I like it. And we're going to leave it right there, all right? Because that was beautiful. So that's what we're going to leave it at. Thank you for listening to another episode of How We're Doing It. We want to hear from you. Contact us at hwdipodcast@gmail.com or leave a comment. If you like the show, consider subscribing in order to get notified of new episodes. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you again on the next episode.
Mama. Bye-bye.